Oh, shoot. Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. He's Gary Groob, and we have, using our special technology, the elastic band of sound, we're bringing in Steve McCarthy, the GM of the Owen Sound North Stars of the MSL. And usually we ask everybody how they picked up a stick. But first, the first question I want to ask is, so how long did you have the shovel in your hand today?
Briefly, luckily I got my snow blower serviced about a week and a half ago, just in time for today's dump. So it was came in handy.
That's awesome, because guess when I had mine serviced? A week and a half ago.
Yeah.
So I got to use that, and I also use this shovel. I use one of those scoop things to run the snow across the street. Okay, enough about being snowed in. You're in Owen Sound. I'm here in Wasaga Beach, so we're in snow country. But right now we're in the world of lacrosse, and we're going to talk about lacrosse. And I want to ask you, picked up a stick? Why? How?
Well, my parents are from the Peterborough area, and so I spent a lot of time there as a kid. And there was a neighbor at my grandparents' house that I guess had played lacrosse. They always had a couple kicking around in their garage, and so I picked one up in my leisure time and would go across the street to the Legion and throw a ball off of it. I was probably 6, 7 years old, and up until then, I really hadn't been exposed to the game.
So another connection. I was just dealing with Legion business before I got on, and thank goodness you were late, because otherwise I was going to be late. Yeah. So now you end up in the management side. What drew you to make that change, to go from being a player to getting involved with management?
Well, it happened probably, I think, in about 2004. I was still hanging on, playing senior B for the Brooklyn Merchant. We had a couple of executive members pass on, and a couple others that were tired of doing it, and we were looking for a general or a coach, actually, and asked me if I'd take over as coach. And I said, no, I'd give it a shot. And then they came back and said, how about, would you like to be the GM as well? So that's how I got into it. And I was in Brooklyn for probably 16 years.
So you doubled your pay then?
Oh, yeah.
We love the game of lacrosse, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're all living a life high style because of lacrosse, right?
Yeah.
Now let's go a little bit further back, Steve. Let's talk about your playing career and talk about junior and talking about with Brampton. And let's talk about those were the heydays of the Excelsiors and being part of the junior teams there.
Well, yeah, my first year was 1979. I mean, I grew up in Mississauga, so I played minor lacrosse for Clarkson. Moved to Alberta for a couple of years, a midget, and got a chance to play junior B out there as a midget age player. And we relocated to Brampton, and had a bunch of friends that were playing there, so it made sense to start up there. So yeah, we were a mix of young and old players at that point in time. We were competitive, certainly. In those days, it was the James gang from Peterborough and the Green Gales and Whitby were the kind of the top three cream of the crop. We'd sneak into fourth place every now and then, but there was nothing knocking off those top three teams.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of the people you came up with, though, because again, that time of the era, it's a who's who of lacrosse who came in and stayed in the game.
Yeah, I mean, in Brampton, we certainly had a lot of guys that have gone on to kind of stay on them, in different varying capacities. Brent McCauley was my goaltender for a number of years. He's gone on to be more notable as a referee than he was as a player, since he didn't play past junior. Barry Trude, who was a great builder and started up the Halton Hills organization. Before that, it was Calvin Bandits. He was really good player, and he was the captain of our team for a couple years. I did get a chance to play as a junior, being called up to senior. Got to play with Bobby Burke and Bram Wilfong and Tom Patrick on that 1980 Man Cup team. I played in the playoffs that year, but didn't survive the cut to get to the Man Cup. But nonetheless, it was just great being around those players for so many opportunities to play with them.
Right, and you hung on with the organization for quite a while in both aspects, both in playing and in management and stuff like that. And again, I want to hit in the heyday of it. I don't want to go for the last couple of years beforehand. Just let's talk about some of the great achievements under you that we had with the Excelsiors.
Well, I don't know that I was really a part of a lot of that, because during a lot of their real good years in the 2000s, I was back over in Brooklyn, but I always kept close tabs, and was still residing in the Toronto area and Brampton for a lot of those years. So I certainly was visible at the arena, but I didn't actually come over, I think, until 2014. Or 15. So yeah, the Man Cup winning days were over by the time I got on. I was on the coaching staff and later into management.
Right. Let's look at the Merchants, because finally the Merchants had a championship this year, but they've been close in a number of different occasions. Talk about how the program itself has grown from the time you were playing to the time you were coaching to where it is now.
Well, yeah, it's certainly gone through quite an evolution. I mean, when I was playing, I went there at the urging of Terry Rowland, who was a great builder of the game as well, and played on a number of the Green Gales teams under Jim Bishop back in the 60s. I worked for Terry. He convinced me to come out. I think I was 38 years old when the Senior B came back to Ontario in 2000. So I got on with that club, was selected as the captain of the team, and we actually went to the President's Cup final in Ganawagi that year and lost to Newtown in the final. So that was a great way for the team to kind of kick off Senior B lacrosse again in Ontario, which had been dormant for a number of years. And from then on, I was able to play, I think, another 4 years. And it wasn't until 2016 we actually won our Ontario championship again with the Merchants, when we went to Leduc in the President's Cup and ended up with the bronze out there. So,
right. Let's talk a little bit about the couple of years you were Coach of the Year. What set those teams apart? What made them so special?
I don't know if it's sometimes it's certainly a philosophy that I'm sure a lot of coaches would tell you, or in management, that you want to be able to build your teams with quality individuals with character. And throughout the years, I mean, I've certainly always tried to install that in any team, or make sure that those are the type of players that we were trying to attract and trying to keep. And they typically would weed out some of the guys that might not have been able to live up to those types of expectations that the teammates put upon each other. Through thick and thin in Brooklyn, and then even when I joined Brampton later on, those are something we always tried to install, and the players were really good about maintaining that type of level of commitment and really dedication to the game. Because in both cases, we never had a ton of money to pass around to players, and they were playing because they loved to be around each other, and win or lose, hopefully win more often than not. That they really made it a lot easier.
Right. Was there a lot of change of philosophy going from Senior B to MSL and coaching, or was it more or less in the same realm of ideas?
Really, I mean, for me, there would be more of a change. You're dealing with a lot of guys that have a ton of experience, and coming in from the outside and trying to instill things to guys that might have been around a while. I kind of give them a leash and see how far they can go with it. And if the results are positive, don't really see any reason to get in players' ways. Unless they run themselves to the end of the road and there's no left or right turn, and we got to kind of refocus and figure out better ways to achieve what we want our goals are.
Right. Your relationship with Paul St. John's gone back a number of years. I want to talk a bit about CLAX. I loved it when it was around. It was a shame that it didn't last that long. But you had a good position there in CLAX. Let's talk about the organization itself and the way it came up, because it was really popular for a bit.
Yeah, Paul was a teammate of mine on that 2000 and I think probably 2001 Merchants team that when we went to the President's Cup. So, and I knew Paul before that. We played against each other in junior when he was an AP for Whitby, coming up from the beach, and I was playing in Brampton and then Peterborough. So, yeah, we've known each other a long time, and it was he's always had ideas about the game, and he's one of the very, very few that is willing to stick his neck out financially, reputationally, to try to make things happen. And he's still at it, obviously. So
yes,
but,
definitely.
yes, CLAX was somewhat revolutionary at the time because we were really trying to create that transition game and make players play both ways with the way the rules were set up. And we had a lot of input from people that were always trying to not necessarily slamming, but not happy with the way that the game had become just an offense defense kind of situation. So with Paul St. John, Jim Veltman was very instrumental in that league in the early years as well. And we just kind of followed their lead and tried to shape the thing as we went along.
And you had a chance to use a number of arenas that we don't use a lot of, especially the Mattamy. That was an interesting one as well, right down to the finals of one year.
Yeah, that was a tremendous. It was a lot of fun for the players. Outside of parking wasn't fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Going downtown Toronto
and stuff, trying to in the Green Pea parking lot, trying to navigate crossing at Church and Carlton with the stuff. And I was involved with the merchandising then too. But other than that, it was a great facility, and it was a lot of fun to be part of the Maple Leaf Gardens history.
Right. Now, transition forward, and CLAX goes, and the next idea is Arena Lacrosse League. And you're in there from the beginning. You're with the Oshawa Outlaws as GM and coach. Let's talk about getting that off the ground, because if we look at the finished product and where we are now a number of years later, we put something like 35 guys into the NLL. It is the gold standard on teaching how to become a pro and how to stay a pro. But the early years, talk about getting that thing off the ground with Paul.
Well, again, it was, he after he had left CLAX and handed over the keys to the investors that he was involved with at the latter years, he wasn't finished and had other ideas. And it was, we kind of followed the same template with respect to having a massive draft with all the teams. And, you never know who you're going to get, who would be committed to play. You're trying to get guys to play in the winter in Ontario, and it's hard to get from point A to point B, especially some guys are living in Ottawa and some guys are living in Niagara and you're in Oshawa. So it's, geography always played a part really when you're trying to look at players and who might be committed to playing in the league. But like you said, there's a lot of guys still very hungry to carve out a niche and get into the NLL or get back into the NLL. And, we certainly had a number of those players on that original Oshawa Outlaw team when we won that championship the first year of the league.
Right. What stands out most about the league and the players when you were part of it?
Again, I think it just goes back to the commitment. Whether we had, Matt Spanger was a guy that, really hadn't been given much of an opportunity in that NLL level. He was an undrafted junior coming out of the beaches. I had him in Brooklyn for 2 or 3 years, brought him to Brampton when I was there. He just kept at it, and now is, certainly carved out a nice career for him with Buffalo in the NLL after starting in I guess it would have been New England at the time. We had Zach Higgins, who was our goalie. We had Nick Tchaikovsky, who was still going to school at that point in Nipissing, but he was coming down, making sure he was available to play on the weekends. I think we had Steph Charbonneau, we as well as a lot of just really quality guys that were around town, whether they had connections to the Merchants. Some of them were senior B guys. Again, it was just a great group to be involved with.
Right. Again, one of the players that comes to mind also is Luke Laskowitz. I had a chance to be with him over in Prague last year when he was playing for the Gales, and just a great teammate and a great player. I think when he was with you, he was the ALL MVP as well.
Yeah, Luke was another real favorite of mine, and again, it was just always on the cusp. Never quite carved out an opportunity to get on in the NLL full time, but certainly spent some time on practice rosters. And sometimes when you're a big scorer in a league, whether it be senior B or even MSL, and teams at the next level want you to be a different player. Some guys can adapt or have the tools to do so, and some guys aren't. Laser is always a great guy with the ball. He could score from anywhere near that dotted line. I mean, he had a cannon. He was pretty elusive, but he just was never in the right place at the right time, I guess, at the NLL level. But he certainly was a dominant player in the Arena Lacrosse League.
Right. One of the thoughts that we had over the last number of shows and months and years is if the ALL could become like the AHL, and maybe NLL teams could actually get one each, and they could get a hold of their draft picks, put in their coaching staffs, and develop systems with the younger guys. Do you think that would fly?
Yeah, you know what? I'm sure it sounds like it's a good idea. The problem is that nobody wants to pay for it. Our coaches in the ALL don't get paid. The players are paying to play. So to assign a specific team, whether Oshawa was affiliated with Ottawa, for example, you've got, you might have some Oshawa natives, but their NLL rights belong to Buffalo, and their ALL team is Oshawican. So you're asking guys to travel all over Ontario. You never know what kind of weather you're going to get, and you're asking them to pay to play. And I think that would be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of players. So.
Right.
I don't discount it if there was teams busing everywhere and coaches were getting paid and training staffs and everything was set in place. But that isn't financially viable. With the way the league is set up now. I mean, the players are already paying $500. You can't ask much more of them to foot the bill. And there certainly is. Attendance is not a big deal in the ALL because for whatever reason, you just don't get that local attachment to the league. It's kind of friends and family.
Right. My thought would be also in a perfect world is that the NLL team would pick up the cost as part of their team organization in that respect. So I think that would solve that if we could convince the NLL teams to do that if they want to hold on to their draft picks and develop.
Yeah, absolutely, no question. But I'm sure that with some of the franchises, they have their concerns are themselves first and foremost, and I think the Arena Lacrosse League has become a great tool for them to be able to fill guys. Whether it be when injuries come about, or somebody all of a sudden has a breakout season, or has kind of been under the radar, and they get a second chance at a pro opportunity. So it certainly does help the NLL tremendously at this point without them having to invest in it. So, I guess it would be up to them to consider what the cost benefits scenario would look like if they had complete control over franchises. Because I doubt they'd be looking at a 25-man roster with many of them being prospects. So I don't know how much they'd want to invest, but that would certainly alleviate a lot of the negatives to your proposal.
Right. Now, you had a chance to get a team off the ground in MSL with the Owen Sound North Stars. Let's talk about that. And again, after all the nonsense and stuff like that went behind the scenes, finally we get the team. We had Chad Culp on last week, and it was fun talking to him about a few things. But Owen Sound also we were talking about, and of course one of your assistant coaches. You did a hell of a job moving from season 1 to season 2 in building a sustainable roster that really gave a lot of fits to a lot of teams. Talk about your thoughts on how you were putting together these rosters.
Again, I think it comes back to try to, do what you can through networking and try to get to know some of these kids before they even become draft eligible, or in our case, be able to protect them coming out of Orangeville or Junior A affiliate, and get a sense of who really wants to play. I mean, we're certainly not a team that has deep pockets.
Right.
It certainly isn't I, that's for sure. And, so again, we're kind of looking for guys that are hungry, that like to play. And again, I can't take credit for all of it. I mean, first and foremost, our 4 coaches have been absolutely exemplary. Adam Jones is very enthusiastic. It's great having him as a local Owen Sound resident and a lacrosse hero in town for many players and fans, young and old. Chad Culp has been great. Gregor and
Harnett.
Harnett has just done a phenomenal job with the beat guys. I mean, we don't have a lot of NLL guys, so it's really taken the players and the coaching staff to really buy in, and they responded well. We've had great commitment. We rarely have ever run into, outside of injury, commitment issues with players. And, I think first and foremost, that's where it's been. And then we just kind of have to, go through and hope that we can incrementally improve in certain areas of the team to make us more competitive. Because we're still closer to the bottom than we are to the top. So, we're certainly going into year 3, not resting on any laurels of playoffs, appearance in year 2. We know we have a lot of work going forward on player retention and just trying to, improve in certain areas and make sure that we bring in guys that again, want to buy in and work hard and be a part of what we're trying to do here.
Right. I look at the roster, and there's a number of names that stand out to me and are going to be big names. You have Tanner Buck. You got the Cascanet brothers. You have Greg Elijah Brown, who had a great summer this past summer, both in Senior B and in Senior A. The name is Jackson Webster. That's the one is eluding me. Scoring leader. These are all young kids, but really in the right direction, all under your tutelage there, and of course with Adam Jones, Culper, and the rest of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's we have outside of I think we really only had one player that would have been even close to 30, and that was Mitch Wild, who came over and just was a fabulous veteran to add to our roster this year. Not only was he phenomenal on the floor, but he was patient playing with guys that were a lot younger than him. He was a big part of the dressing room, and he was a mentor and almost an on-floor coach in a lot of ways. And surprised to some degree that he isn't on a roster right now, but I'm sure any of the teams that run into problems, especially need a transition guy that can, with a big body, he takes care of himself, that he may get another sniff before everything's said and done this year.
Right. Now, in MSL itself, I love summer game. I love it more than I love the NLL. I think it's a much grittier game. I think it's a much more fast-paced game. And really, overall, I just love the setup more. How do we get the attendance back to, some of the glory days? Because, some of the places I go to, it just absolutely makes me want to cry that I'm one of the 5 people that are in there.
Yeah. When you find out, let me know. But,
right.
again, I think, Unfortunately for some of the franchise, I can't speak for Owen Sound because we're in 2 seasons. The first year was kind of a abbreviated season, and last year, because of the arena renovations that were undergone to bring the Bayshore back up to snuff for the OHL and the attack, we were forced to play out in Meaford. So we had essentially 18 away games this year. So, we did, we certainly got some fan support coming over from Owen Sound. It's only a 25-minute drive, but I think, winning solves a lot of problems, and, to get that casual fan or that to reignite some of the passion that some fans might have had in a certain area, whether it be Brampton or, even Brooklyn for that matter. I was around there for a long time when a big game against Peterborough or playoffs would mean the Iroquois Park was full or certainly close to it. And, again, unfortunately, that isn't the case anymore. So, but, they haven't won since 2000. Brampton hasn't won since, 2000.
11 or 12, I think. Yeah.
And you certainly get, I think you get fan bases that get discouraged and, look to all the negatives of why they don't want to go to the games anymore. And we certainly need to create some more parity how that happens. I mean, it's the Chiefs are on a phenomenal run, and, nobody wishes, ill on them, and Peterborough did it for a number of years before them, and Brampton was certainly involved throughout the first decade of the 2000s and then some. But sometimes when there's dominant franchises, it sort of eats away at the rest of the league. And unless we get parity, there isn't going to be a league long term, at least, other than, that might be transient when teams take a look that it doesn't work here, doesn't work there, and blame it on fans. It's not the fans' fault. We certainly need to figure out a way to make our league competitive from 1 to 7.
Right. And the more that they talk about full-time NLL thing, that affects summer ball, because you're not going to get these players that we can market right now, even though I don't think that the marketing is up to snuff, because if nobody knows when or where the game is, how can they go? It stops the walk-up crowd.
There's no question. I mean, me certainly included. I mean, we fall short on the marketing side of the game at the MSL level. We certainly have put some people in place in the last 12 to 18 months that are working behind the scenes and such. And we're hoping to have a few other things that will expose our game to some more people, on the book soon. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that you can't just flip a couple ads out in the social media and expect people to come. You have to probably have to create an event atmosphere other than what's just going on the floor. And, there's a lot of intangibles that could be added to the promotion of the game, and really just get involved in the community. I mean, we have an opportunity in Owen Sound. If it doesn't work, I'm not necessarily going to blame anybody in Owen Sound for it. It'll kind of fall on my shoulders. But at the end of the day, we need to get a healthy fan base to continue to move up the ranks and be financially viable to keep guys there and bring guys in and and be competitive.
Right. I would almost think that maybe we could use the universities and find the marketing students and offer credits as a marketing tool, so that it wouldn't cost money for the league, but you could get the cutting edge thinking of, say, the youth, and have them try their hand. It couldn't do any worse than we're doing.
And that is that's a great idea, no question. Yeah, that's I think there's a lot of avenues that need to be considered and explored. And there's hopefully there's a couple of university students sitting at home today going, "Hey, I'm in. Who do I call?" So
yeah.
Most
likely they played minor lacrosse too. Now let's take a look at the from your perspective, how lacrosse has changed over the last 30, 40 years. Better, worse? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, like, it's certainly changed. I think, when I first started playing as a kid, it was, there's a lot of the kids that played hockey were playing lacrosse. So many sports, when you get to that elite level now, lacrosse included, there's so much club, whether it's hockey, some are 3-on-3 teams, tournament teams, baseball, and a lot of their club level teams that, go all over the U.S. to tournaments. Lacrosse is the same with their, with Evolve and Edge and so many other great avenues that kids have. But it really, I think it's really kind of siloed a lot of the athletes, where they're either too busy or they've been told that they need to focus from the time they're 10 or 11 years old on one sport. And it's really taken a lot of the fun out of not just lacrosse, but in sport in general, and a lot of pressure to succeed. And whether that leads to the burnout at lacrosse or other areas, I don't know. I really haven't been involved hands-on in minor lacrosse for a number of years. It's not fair for me to pass any kind of judgment. But, I think that in itself it's solely my opinion, but I just don't think we have enough kids that are exposed to a lot of different sports, even if it's all in the same year. I mean, I can remember when I was 12 years old, I played hockey, lacrosse, football, baseball, and I think there was a time in September where all three crossed over, and I was going from one game to another game or practice. Every night. If I didn't have two things on in one night, it was an exception. So, that certainly wouldn't happen today. And, so hopefully, I know there's some minor associations that have really dug in hard and really working hard in the off season to promote lacrosse and get stuff. I think in Owen Sound, I think we have well over 600 kids playing in Owen Sound, which is certainly in the top 10 of the OLA. And, they've got starting at 3 years of age. So, and a lot of really dedicated people involved to keep it going. So that they're not just in it because they have one or two kids in, and probably when they're done with it, they're done as well. There's certainly seems to be a tremendous group there, and they've done, even in the short time I've lived there, they're really grown the association. I think we have rep teams at pretty well every level, all the way up to your U17. So like at least 2 rep teams at every level. I think we might even have 3 at some now. So along with their local league. So yeah, I think it comes from the grassroots. They got to make it happy. We don't flip the switch when you go all the way up to our level. We get the guys that have kind of hung around and been through the wars of minor and junior lacrosse. So, and still have an aptitude and a desire to play. So
that's interesting because, a lot of the time I'm hearing Mark Millen said it best, was we spend a lot of money on club teams and the kids who want to make pro, but the grassroots really get neglected. And it's refreshing to hear that Owen Sound has such great programs where the grassroots are actually being nourished, because that's the future. That's the future fan bases for the kids who aren't going to go on and try and become a pro. And that's also for the teams, for the kids who do want to become a pro. That's where it all begins.
Yeah, I mean, it really has, and I don't think it's any different than any other sport, quite frankly. We wouldn't want to, it's not a lacrosse issue, but it has become very inverted. There's a lot of associations that when they get their 15th kid in Pee Wee, wow, now we have 1 rep team. If we get to 30 kids, we'll have 2. They don't have a house league. It's a hard sport to master the skill. And, to show up and every week and travel all over to games and tournaments, and to not have any success because you're just sort of trying to learn the game at that kind of age. You might touch the ball 1 or 2 times a game. I don't know where the fun is in that. So, so I think there's a lot to be said for making sure that there's skill development and making sure kids really like the game. Again, whether it's lacrosse or anything else for that matter, and kind of nurture that and build from there, and not concern ourselves with only what happens at the rep level or elite levels, and let that take care of itself. If we can build a big enough pool at the bottom end that gravity will fill up all those top end spots and only help the game or games, whatever you're into, is attracting more athletes.
Right. Now, with the Olympics coming up in a couple of years' time, what are your thoughts on sixes first off?
I mean, I am pretty ignorant to the game. I love watching it. I don't understand all the nuances to it, but it's Canada's very good at it, so I'm happy to see that that's the Olympic game of choice. I'm sure there's purists on both sides that would prefer to see the box or the field game in as the Olympic sport, but hey, it seems it's exciting. It's certainly fast paced, and again, I don't profess to be anything more than just a fan of that level, and you don't get to see it much unless it's sort of an international event of some sort. So, it's certainly going to need to have get some low. Certainly they have some minor lacrosse that have adopted through the OLA. I'm sure other MAs as well have organized sixes leagues, but yeah, I think it could very well be a great way to promote the game and kind of a lot of the best of both worlds between field and box.
Right. Is this finally that big push that we've all been looking for and waiting for, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, again, I think time will tell. I mean, again, it's certainly, I've been fortunate enough to be involved on the box side, and I did coach field and play for a lot of years. Even I got hung around in that Ontario Men's Senior League till I was probably 50 years old or close to it. I started, I think, when I was 18. I've certainly had some years off, but nonetheless, so we've got, in sixes, we don't have, other than it's really just starting in minor. It's going to take a long time to develop that as an alternative to either the box or the field game, but it could be. I don't think it won't happen overnight. But yeah, it could be. It certainly has a lot of the attributes that everybody really likes about both games, and it could end up being the pinnacle of the sport.
Right. One of my concerns, and we brought it up a little ways back, is do you think that they have an exit strategy? It's one thing to say, hey, that was a great tournament, and then not do anything with it. And then we're right back to where we started from. Do you think that the powers that be are busy working towards what to do after the Olympics and build on having 280 more countries viewing it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Way above my pay grade. I'm sure there are people that are listening. They're nodding their heads that they've got it all figured out. Again, the buy-in has to come from the individual associations, because irregardless of what people in positions of authority and in administration, whether it be OLA or CLA or any of the MAs for that matter, you have to have the MAs do all the work. They do all the heavy lifting, or not the MAs, the individual associations. So
right.
It has to be it can't be a top-down strategy, irregardless of whether it's sixes or box or field. And I think there could be a lot learned from some of the associations that have really continued to develop, whether it be in Mimico or Orangeville or and now in some degrees Owen Sound, that have taken areas that always had a history of lacrosse but have kind of made a revival. I mean, and it's a way of life in Orangeville, and it's certainly you can't be involved in any kind of human endeavor in Mimico without understanding that the lacrosse is a big time sport there in the summer and actually 12 months of the year. So,
right. Now, looking back, what would you call your proudest moment in the sport? Whether it be playing, coaching, managing, it really doesn't matter. But what would you think would be the pinnacle of what you've done?
No, that's a good question. I mean, there's been a few. I would think probably on a personal note, I had the opportunity my last year in junior to be picked up at the trade deadline by the Peterborough James gang, who were headed towards their third consecutive Minto Cup. So I left Brampton and joined Peterborough for the last half of the season, and got an opportunity to win a Minto Cup there. We lost one game all season, which coincidentally was the first game I played, which resulted in a bench clearing brawl in Whitby. So even though we seem to get more enjoyment out of that whole fiasco than we actually did, even when we won the Minto. It was getting the old hat for some of those guys, and to have a gigantic half-hour drawn-out bench clearing brawl that seemed to have nobody officiating it, other than police arrived at one point. So, anyways, that year, I mean, just on a personal note, you always want to win. I got a chance to play with a lot of guys I played against in minor and through junior that had a ton of respect for, and because of my family roots are from Peterborough and Keene area, I had some relatives that got to come and be a part of that when I was there, even though, at that point, I was happy just to play a role there. And, so Mark Guidarelli, who's still involved with the Lakers, was our head coach. And to this day, Mark and Lee they were responsible for bringing me in there. And I'll always, have a lot of gratitude for that, because that's probably the most, prestigious thing I've ever been involved with as a player, anyways.
Right. What do you think the biggest challenge you ever faced made you a better leader?
I think with a lot of guys, I mean, like for me, I was pretty much like growing up in Clarkson. We had Junior B, Junior A, and Junior C in Mississauga, and Clarkson was the home of the Junior B team. And I played we had a really good group at my age group. We were typically probably the second best team in the province behind Peterborough. We'd lose it in the final almost every tournament in the OLA playdowns and such to Peterborough. And from there I ended up, we moved out west. I played a couple years of midget in Calgary and then came back, and I was kind of out of place, out of mind. No one really knew what to expect other than some of the people that I knew had kind of remembered me, but I was never big as a player. I'm probably like 5'10", 210. I used to play at 5'10", 145. So when I first came in junior, but I still thought I could beat guys that were 6'4", 240. So so I think being told that not small, not big enough, that kind of stuff, not tough enough, it sort of just, makes you kind of want to either believe what people are saying or dig in and prove them wrong. So I do have one OLA record, Gary, and it is I have the most penalty minutes in one game in junior A lacrosse. So
Nice.
Whether that's a proud moment or not, I certainly try to, bestow upon my opponents that I wouldn't take any crap, regardless of my stature. So
Absolutely. Now, how do you, as a coach, build a winning culture inside a dressing room? And I probably would take the Owen Sound team for an example. To take it from year one to year two, there was definitely a change of thought process.
Well, again, I think it really, through year one, we lost our first 9 regular season games. We were 0-9.
Yeah.
We won our last 3 regular season games. We got, went into the playoffs. We played Peterborough. We went out, in straight games. Yet our guys, to this day, we picked up the pieces at the end. The coaching staff, again, always positive. Not a lot of negativity. They certainly, if someone wasn't doing what was asked or not putting forth the effort, that would certainly be addressed. But those issues were few and far between. We've been able to bring guys in that just want to be part of something, and we'll bring those guys along as long as we can until we can find better players that have the same kind of attitude and desire. And I really got to credit the coaching staff for that. They're not guys that rant and rave and demand things from the players that are unrealistic. We're looking to win little battles. We're looking to win shifts, win periods, and then translate that into winning games. And the coaching staff and the players that we've been able to bring in themselves are really, those are the guys that deserve, most of the credit.
Right. Now, after decades in the sport, what still motivates you to keep coaching, keep building programs, and doing all that?
Boy, you know what? Because I've never learned to say no.
I
And,
know that one. I know that one well.
and I wish at some point maybe that might become part of my vocabulary. I mean, my age at some point will catch up, and I just want to have the energy to do so. But I do enjoy a challenge. I do enjoy being part of it. I mean, when I had an opportunity to play for a lot longer than a lot of guys do, when I had sat out a number of years. I played field lacrosse, but my work did not allow me to play in the summer so much because I traveled a lot, and I missed it when I got back in, getting to play in my late 30s and into my early 40s. I still loved playing. I wasn't ready to pack it in, but when I got the opportunity to coach and be involved in team management, it kind of grew on me, and just enjoy it. It's fun being around the guys. I get an opportunity to play hockey with Adam Jones's dad every week, and Mark Kazarian up in Owen Sound. And I get my chance to hang around with 60 and 70-year-old guys all week long playing hockey and sharing the odd beer. But being around guys that are in their 20s, 30s, and coaches that are 30s and 40s is refreshing. It kind of gives you a different perspective on a lot of things, whether it be life in general or just the game itself. And I think that really, more than anything, is what keeps me hanging around.
Right. What advice would you give to a young player who's hoping to try and make it?
You know what? Just believe in yourself, because you're going to have a lot of naysayers. And you know what? Eventually the door will close, but don't close it on yourself. Just keep knocking, keep doing what, if you get proper criticism on what you can do to improve your game. I mean, some guys just don't have the athleticism, or maybe it's the size, or they're not strong enough. There may be physical barriers that may not be able to be overcome. But your attitude and your heart is something that you can control. And for players, you can only control what you can control. So as long as you're going to be true to yourself, be as dedicated as you can, make all the adjustments that maybe are told to you on how to play technical, or whether it be anything else that is part of the game. Take that to heart, try to put it to practice. And at the end of the day, if you get your opportunity and you succeed, you can pass that on to the next guy or a teammate that might be struggling. But I think it's got to come within the player, and they're the ones that really, the guys that aren't the superstar players, and not to take anything away from them, because a lot of those guys are the hardest workers or take care of themselves. But
Right.
for the guy that's really just trying to stay in the game and knock on the door and be involved, it's don't make excuses. Don't let others make excuses for you. Just stay with it and be the best human you can be, to be the best player and teammate you can be. And when opportunity strikes, make sure you grab it.
Right. And lastly, what's next for Steve McCarthy? Normally, I wouldn't ask the question because, it would be trying to, taper things off. But you always have something on the go. So what's any new projects or goals or any roles on top of what you're doing?
No, I mean, I'm still involved in the Arena Lacrosse League, although I gave up being the coaching GM there after a couple of years living in Owen Sound. The travel back and forth with the inclement weather just wasn't something I wanted to continue to do. So I do help Paul behind the scenes and doing a lot of administrative stuff, and so that keeps me busy enough. I get to stay involved in that regard and try to get to as many games as I can. But I've got my work cut out for me in Owen Sound, so that my runway is is not looking beyond what I have to do to try to really get our organization ready to enter year 3 and really kind of pick up where we left off last year and try not to take a step back. We want to make sure that we're ready to put a good product on the floor, attract as many fans as we can, continue to build that base and make ourselves relative in our marketplace. So.
Absolutely.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, we have fostered a nice relationship with the management group at the Owen Sound Attack, and they've always been very helpful with us, and they do a phenomenal job there. Being the smallest city in this, could be the CHL for that matter, and they're always they attract people from all over the Grey Bruce area, and if we can get even a fraction of what they've been able to get their foothold into, we'll be well served.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Steve, I really want to thank you for taking the time out, and especially on a day where you've finished snowing and uncovering your land. So I appreciate the time, and I look forward to seeing you around the arenas.
Well, I appreciate the time too, guys. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much. I know I can get on tangents there now and then, but yeah, I do appreciate it, and it was fun.
It was fun here too. And I assume it was fun for Gary. I wanted to add one more thing. All the connections we've had since I've started speaking to you for the first time today. One more connection hit. I lived in Clarkson for 30 years.
Well, I was there. I went to Elmcrest, Hillside.
I lived across the street from Elmcrest on Carenza.
Okay, like I lived on Rockport, and then I lived on right at the very top, just off of I can't even remember the Bushland Crescent.
Yeah.
So
small world that got small so many times. I'm amazed at everything you mentioned. I'm going, okay, why have I not run into him sooner? But anyway, it was really a pleasure meeting you, Steve. You carry the banner and love for the game, and while you are special, you're also, what makes the game last and be so important. It's people like you that love the game so much that don't put the stick down and say, well, that was fun. Try to figure out a way to help other young people play the game. And I appreciate the hard work and challenges that you have to deal with. And you're almost a neighbor. So maybe someday I'll come check out you guys playing lacrosse there, but not in this weather.
No, I wouldn't do either.
It's a real pleasure meeting you. Good luck with the team. All the best to you and your family, because I know anytime a person commits to lacrosse, they're committing for their family as well. So give them a hug for me, saying thank you for allowing you to do what you do. I really appreciate you.
All right. Well, I will for sure. I appreciate it.
All right, Gary. He's Gary Groob. I'm Candid Stanisci, and that was Steve McCarthy, GM of Owen Sound North Stars of the MSL. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again next Thursday.